Hi, I'm Harry,
And I'm Ralph.
and today we're going to review another one of the great Harry Potter movies.
We're watching Prisoner of Azkaban this time, and a lot of people say it's the best one. I personally don't think so, but I do think it's the most beautiful. There are a lot of really gorgeous shots in this movie, and it is very creepy. I think it's a great way to start getting into the dark tone of the later films, and I would put it in my top 3 for sure.
Well, when we watch this film, we can remember its predecessors, The Sorcerer's Stone and The Chamber of Secrets, and those two were very comedic. We see lots of jokes, and they're lighthearted for the most part. And we watch Azkaban, and we can see that it's much more serious, and it's a little bit darker, more somber-toned. A big thing that this movie caught on me was when I watched this movie, I was close to the age of the actors. So, how I was getting 1 year older each time I watched this movie and I watched the characters be a year older, and it's like I'm aging with them. I'm in school with them, I'm in the next grade, I'm learning more. It had a really spectacular feel to it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of grew up with Harry Potter, either the books or the movies, and it's really cool to age with a character. And it's pretty amazing that they found Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson when they were so young, because they're great as child actors and they're great when they're adults. So, really impressive cast throughout all the films.
I thought they were incredible. This movie opens pretty much the same as the first two, where we start off where Harry's back at home with the dreadful Dursleys. Of course, we can see that with Uncle Vernon at least, he doesn't seem quite as bad in this one. It seems like Uncle Vernon has wanted to just have nothing to do with Harry, and Harry will just stay up in his bedroom most of the time and is happy to comply with that. But during this movie, Harry Potter's Aunt Marge comes and visits the home, and she is just despicable. She's a complete bitch. She makes Vernon, Petunia, and Dudley all seem like angels. She is there. She wants to deliberately enrage Harry by talking about what his parents were, his father being a drunk.
Well, it ends in kind of a comedic scene, though, when Harry finally ends up blowing her up. It starts in kind of a dark moment, but it ends up kind of funny. And that is actually sort of the inciting incident for the whole story.
Indeed, and another thing we can see with Harry Potter being a year older, he's much more mature in this one, and we can see that he's not willing to take crap anymore. Like in the first two, he would let Vernon push him around, but in this one, he pretty much says to Vernon, if you mess with me, you're gonna get the horns.
Yeah, this is kind of the first one where it seems like Harry doesn't really seem like a kid in the movies. He seems a little bit more adult, and it just gets more so like that throughout the rest of the series.
And we can also see with the Dursleys, with Harry Potter, it's believed that because he blew up his aunt, Hogwarts is going to expel him, and he demonstrates that he doesn't care. He'd rather be a homeless runt than living with the Dursleys, so he just abandons the home, goes out, and is willing to sleep on the street if he has to.
Another great character introduced in this film is Sirius Black, who is actually introduced originally as a villain who has sworn basically to hunt down Harry Potter, and this creates just an incredible sense of dread throughout the whole first half of the film. There are a lot of very creepy scenes. One of my favorite scenes in the whole franchise is when the train is stopped and Dementors look at Harry through the window. The cinematography is beautiful, the music and direction is fantastic, and the whole scene just seems incredibly eerie and scary. And, you know, especially for a movie that a lot of kids are watching, I think that was a really bold and just great choice.
Well, when it comes to the Dementor scene, I won't undermine it. That scene was terrifying. And I guess with the special effects and everything they had going on, it felt so real. We watched the train come to a sudden stop. It's storming outside. The power goes out. It's like the windows on the train. You can see everything going cold. There's a mist. It's freezing up. And then you can see this black phantom-like creature, a Dementor, show up, and he opens the door, comes in, and is ready to suck out Harry Potter's soul, only to be rescued by this mysterious man, Professor Lupin.
Yeah, pretty great scene. Another scene that I remember being just incredibly strong visually is just this one shot of the camera flying, across some snow, and we see Harry's footsteps appearing in the snow as he walks with the invisibility cloak on. Kind of a clever scene. I always loved that shot. There's another great one where I think it goes through a bell tower, and then we see a skull appear in the air over the school. A really great cinematography in this movie. And I think we both agree the Dementors are really scary. And I think so is Sirius Black, at least at the beginning. The werewolf appears towards the end of the film, pretty creepy as well. I think that, this is the first Harry Potter film that could actually really scare someone.
Well, I was pretty scared by the spiders in that last movie, but
well,
this movie is darker and more somber toned for sure. But apart from that, you watch this movie, and every turn of this movie, like every second, is just dripping with beautiful scenery. And part of what made the movie so enjoyable for me is you watch the atmosphere, the lake, the forest, the skies, and it's so beautiful. You meet this creature, the hippogriff. Harry Potter manages to take a ride on it flying through the sky.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
He flies over Hogwarts. You can look at the school from different angles. He flies through the forest. It's beautiful. He flies over a lake, and what really caught me is there's a scene where when he flies over the lake, he sticks out his claw into the water and treads through it a little bit. That was just breathtaking.
Yeah, I loved the hippogriff flight scene. That was really great, and it reminds me a lot of, spoilers, the dragon flight scene that happens in the next film. I really like this film. I think it has an incredibly satisfying arc. A lot of people complain about the time travel in this movie, but it really doesn't bother me. I know that it would have been convenient in the later films, but it's not this movie's responsibility to try and correct movies that haven't occurred yet. So I think that the time travel is really satisfying, and I think one of my favorite scenes in all of the Harry Potter movies is when Harry Potter thinks he sees his father across a lake, casting an Expecto Patronum and saving him. Later, Harry appears himself and casts Expecto Patronum, and he realizes that he was the person who he saw coming back in time to save himself. And it's a really powerful moment in the movie.
It is.
It's one of my favorite scenes throughout the whole series. And I think that this movie really kind of makes people care about Sirius Black. We don't have Voldemort as a villain to drive the plot, so it's really quite impressive when Sirius Black is introduced as a villain, later becomes a friend, and people really start to care about him by the end of this movie, at least in my opinion.
Sirius Black just made things really sentimental, and you almost feel a sense of guilt because throughout the movie, Sirius Black was our biggest fear, and we're afraid at every turn, like Harry Potter's gonna turn a corner and then Sirius Black is gonna get him. But later on, we find out that Sirius Black is an innocent man, and all he wants to do is help Harry Potter. And yet, who the actual person that betrayed Harry Potter's family is, and who's actually a murderer, is Ron's pet rat Scabbers, who was also Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite things also, is how Scabbers the rat is a person. Pretty funny. Feel bad for Ron, though.
Yeah, I think Ron grew a real attachment to Scabbers.
I'd be sad if my pet turned out to be, a Death Eater. Anyway, I think we can both agree this is one of the best Harry Potter films.
I think this is the very best of the Harry Potter films.
Ooh, it's in my top 3 for sure. I would say it's the prettiest.
It is definitely the prettiest of the Harry Potter films. And this movie had many new elements, like the magic took things to a new level. We watch Harry and his friends eating these magic beans that cause them to make animal noises. There's another scene with Professor Lupin where each person casts a spell called Ridiculous, where they turn something they're afraid of into something funny.
Oh, love that one.
And then, of course, there's the Patronus charm spell, Expecto Patronum! And we see that Harry Potter can't do it at first. Oh yeah, and of course there's the time travel, which you mentioned earlier. We also see a new Dumbledore, because the old actor for the first 2 movies died between the second and third films, so they used a much younger guy, Michael Gambon, to do Dumbledore in this movie.
It's sad that they replaced the original actor, but I think he's really good, and I think I actually prefer this new actor, although I love them both.
Well, what's different about this new actor? I hated the new actor at first because I thought that he was too young, and he just seemed like he was kind of a jerk. He wasn't nice like the old one, but he grew on me later as I look at him, and I realized that he's much darker and more serious, and if there was a headmaster of a school of witchcraft and wizardry like Hogwarts, the new Dumbledore just seems more probable as to what you would really find, whereas the old Dumbledore was just like Santa Claus.
Right. So, what do you think you would give this film out of 10?
This film was breathtaking every turn. It was spectacular. I am gonna give this a 9 out of 10.
Wow. Is that your highest rating so far?
I think it might be.
Wow. I'm not sure if this is my highest rating so far, but I'm also going to rate it high. I'm going to give it an 8.5. It's one of my favorite Harry Potter films, and I think it would probably be tied with my favorite, because, the top 3, all pretty close. Anyway, I love this film. I love the cast, I love Sirius Black, but my favorite thing about it is the music and the cinematography. I think it's really a movie that it would be nice to see in theaters or on Blu-ray or just on a big TV, because it's gorgeous, and I think that it's very creepy. You just get this haunting feeling throughout the first half of the movie, and even though it doesn't have Voldemort, I think it's one of the most ominous, uncomfortable films in the series. So, I love it.
Oh yeah. A few more things I want to touch on. There's the old school bully Draco Malfoy. Now in the movies 1 and 2, he's not a particularly harmful guy. He's just sort of a mean kid, who's stuck up. He's never likable. But in this movie, Draco is older, he's taller, he knows a lot more, he's going through puberty, and it's like in this movie, he just seems worse, he's more evil, and he's not just a mean kid. I mean, he's a serious punk that can hurt you.
But he gets punched by Hermione in this film.
Yeah, and I mean, Draco was just despicable in this one. It's like he deliberately picked a fight with the Hippogriff. He exaggerated the pain that the Hippogriff caused to him, and then he got his father Lucius involved. And Buckbeak, the Hippogriff, was going to be put to death, and they had to use time travel.
Well, he was, but they saved him.
Yeah. Draco doing that, he deliberately wanted to get the Hippogriff and Hagrid in trouble. That was just sick. But, it was also awesome to see Hagrid again in this movie, and he's teaching in this film, which he had never done before.
Yeah. Anyway, really good film.
Also, when it comes to the cinematography, in the first 2 films, you look at the main shot of Hogwarts where they're going across the boats, and it looks kind of like a painting on the wall. But when they review that scene again in this movie, it's like they've enhanced it, and it looks very real, like it's a real building.
Oh yeah, this movie has the best CGI of all 3 so far, and I think it's just going to get better as the series goes along.
Now, when you look at Hogwarts from different angles, you might fly over it, look at it from the back, look at it from the middle, look at it from the front. You can tell that it's not all the same building.
Right.
They've filmed it in multiple locations, multiple castles, multiple cathedrals. It's like you can tell that it's not all the same place.
Of course, but, you'd have to do something like that, but it still feels very real in my opinion. It looks like you could go down there.
And when it comes to the part with Sirius Black, this movie I thought was much more sentimental than the first movies, as we can see Sirius Black is Harry's godfather, and it's like you really come to adore Sirius Black at the end of the movie. It's really touching. Sirius Black is Harry's godfather. Sirius Black is probably the closest thing Harry has to his real parents. And during the movie, Sirius Black even offers to let Harry Potter live with him, which, compared to everything Harry Potter's had to live with, that's a pretty damn good deal.
Yeah, why didn't he take it?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think Sirius is a pretty great character, and this movie really has a heart. Not that the first 2 didn't, but this one kind of takes it to the next level.
Oh yeah, there's Professor Lupin, who's a really wonderful professor, cares for Harry. Professor Lupin is a werewolf in this one, and then Sirius Black is this black dog. Harry Potter seemed to be much more powerful with his sorcery in this film as opposed to its predecessors. But let's get real, Harry Potter started off doing the Expecto Patronum spell on a Bogart, not a real Dementor, and he couldn't even hold back that. He finally manages to push back the Bogart into its chest box, or whatever that thing was. But then later on, there's dozens of Dementors trying to suck out Sirius Black's soul, and he casts a powerful spell that vanishes dozens of Dementors. He has that much power in him, which is a really powerful, emotional scene to see because we realize that he saved an innocent man from a terrible fate, but let's face it, it's just not very realistic.
Right. But, you have to give it some credit. It's a movie.
Is there anything more you want to say about this film?
Well, I don't know. I think there's just a lot to talk about. A lot of people dislike the time travel, but doesn't bother me. I think it's a nice change of pace compared to the other films. Love the cinematography. It's the best aspect of the movie. It's the scariest one so far. And all in all, I think it's really good. So again, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, and you gave it a 9. So all in all, we gave it a combined 8.75, and I think that's our highest rating so far.
I might say like 9.2, but I'm going to go ahead and hold it to its closest 0.5 and say just a 9.
Anyway, yeah, 4.5 stars, not bad at all. So, anyway, great film. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys later, and tune back in for the later Harry Potter films.
Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and leave a comment below. Stay tuned till next time.
See ya.
Stay off.